Good evening. Welcome to the Chandler City Council meeting of Thursday, May 10th, 2018. I want to welcome everybody and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Tripp Trainee.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ellen.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Hartke.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. The invocation this evening will be led by Pastor Rudy Paredes, Calvary Chapel of Chandler, and the pledge by Councilmember Vice Mayor, Nora Ellen. Is Pastor Paredes here? Okay, he's playing hooky on us. I will ask Councilmember Hartke to please lead us in the invocation, followed by Vice Mayor leading us in the pledge.
Please join me in prayer. Lord God, we thank you for communities where we see people that gather together. We ask that you will continue to bless Chandler and the endeavors that bring us together, that help the poor, that make hope possible for those who aspire to start new things. I thank you for creativity in our community and all sorts of great things. We ask for wisdom tonight as council members to continue to lead and to continue to guide. We ask that you would keep our police, our fire safe, and particularly this week with public safety awareness. And we just pray your blessings upon our first responders and all that they say and do. I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Hartke. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. How many people are here for item number 10? Okay. Whoever makes the motion, if we could move item number 10 to the action agenda. And with that, we would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mayor.
Councilmember Lopez.
I move for approval of the City Council regular meeting consent agenda for Thursday, May 10th, with the exception of item number 10, to be moved to action item.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second by Councilmember. Okay. Any comments from the council?
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, further question on item number 4. Ordinance number 4812, Brighton Place.
Yes.
I'd just like to talk to our Eric. We had talked about this project, and there was a nice lady that came down that had some concerns about safety at that area right there because of the number of homes that were delivering out of one entrance, one exit, one entrance. And is there any progress on the potential for another entrance exit on that?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Rowe, there is an existing, or there will be an existing secondary emergency access at the southeast corner. From a primary entrance, this is the only one that will be there, will be on Jackson Place. However, right after the council meeting, I met with the development team as well as the resident, I believe it was Miss DeRosa, and the developer agreed to go ahead and put in a speed bump close to the entrance to prohibit people from or discourage people from flying through. In addition, there'll be a stop sign there at that intersection as well. So it doesn't necessarily address her whole concern of having a secondary access point, but it does alleviate some of the concerns with speeding through.
Okay, and then the other question was about parking. Is some of the streets, because it's a little private community, some of the streets are kind of narrow. And so each home, of course, has a garage and a driveway, but is there HOA prohibitions on people parking on the streets, or is that also something that people will be able to do?
Again, Councilmember Rowe, so each home itself will have the garage and then 2 spaces on the driveway. So there'll be 3 parking spaces per unit. In addition, the street is designed, although it's a private street, it is designed to accommodate on-street parking. And so there is that width to it. So there's going to be sufficient parking on street as well as on each individual lot, if you will. There's also some guest parking over by the main amenity area. So from a parking standpoint, it's well above what we would normally require.
So it won't be prohibited by the HOA?
Correct, it won't be prohibited. CC&Rs will manage it, so just in case there are concerns. There are a couple of spots where the width of the street is a little bit narrow, so on that east and west end, there won't be parking on those streets. Those portions of the drive will be painted and they'll have signs on it prohibiting no parking. And so that will be effectively enforced by the HOA as well as the fire marshal if they happen to drive through.
Okay, thank you very much.
Certainly.
Council, any more comments on the consent agenda? Will the council please vote? Clerk, please note I'll be voting no on item number 4.
And move item number 10 to the action agenda. Carries unanimously. The motion, item number 4 passes, carries by majority.
Thank you. Okay, council, we did move item number 10 to action. Ask staff for a brief presentation on that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to put 2 exhibits up here for a quick reference as I brief you on what this item is. Let's see if they, oh, there it is. The application request before you tonight is DVR 17-0024, Mesquite Grove Marketplace Discount Tire. This property in question is the northeast corner of Gilbert and Riggs Road, which is indicated on this vicinity map. This is a large 5-acre, it's a 5-acre parcel that is part of a larger 9-acre commercial corner that was zoned in the late 90s for neighborhood commercial uses, which are uses permitted by right in the C1 zoning district in our city zoning code. The request before you tonight is to amend that zoning for neighborhood commercial uses in order to add 1 additional land use to that list of uses. This is a site plan of what's proposed. Pardon me here as I'm trying to zoom in. Currently on this corner, there's a self-storage mini warehouse facility that exists along the northern border, wraps around and comes down the eastern border. You have Riggs Road on the south and Gilbert Road on the west side. This site plan was approved when the original, was approved several years ago when the self-storage mini warehouse and the commercial center came forward. This site includes a bank pad here. This was a grocery pad, and there's a daycare center with an outdoor playground over here. The request is for a discount tire to allow a motor vehicle use on that 1 lot. This case did go through Planning and Zoning Commission recently, and Planning and Zoning Commission recommended by condition to limit the added motor vehicle repair use just to that 1.2 acre lot where the business is proposed to develop. The remaining 2 lots would stay as neighborhood commercial for C1 uses. The request includes what we call a preliminary development plan, which is the site layout as well as the building architecture specifically for that discount tire proposal on that lot there fronting on Gilbert Road. Also coming out of Planning and Zoning Commission, there was a recommended zoning condition to limit the hours of that motor vehicle repair use, which would include certain hours Monday through Friday and Saturday, and it would also need to be closed on Sundays. The request overall was a zoning case process, which is rezoning the land to add that 1 use as well as a design component. There was a neighborhood meeting process that was held, so there was public notification that went out to property owners in the surrounding area. In addition, the applicant had reached out to various residents and in that neighborhood as well. Planning staff has received correspondence by phone and email from residents that are both opposed to this request to add motor vehicle repair, as well as those that are supportive of that. Recently, we did receive a petition which is added into your packet. Homeowners have spoken with one another and have felt strongly that they would not want a motor vehicle repair use to be added to the property. And there are residents here tonight, as you've indicated earlier. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jody. Council questions of Jody?
Mayor?
Councilmember Lopez.
So the categorization of automotive repair use, my understanding is that that Discount Tire, they typically only replace tires and don't deal with a lot of oil changes, major overhauls, transmissions and such, so there it doesn't require a lot of oil recycling or anything like that. So where is that threshold when it becomes auto repair use where it's just a regular commercial?
Through the Mayor, Councilmember Lopez, our zoning code has what we call general or broad land use categories. So it's called motor vehicle repairs. That can include various types of repairs that are occurring on a car, whether it's the wheels, the tires, oil changes, transmission, air conditioning, lift kits, whatever it may be, stereos, interior, fabric design, window tinting, that all falls under motor vehicle repair. For example, the site is zoned for neighborhood commercial. The site plan had showed a potential grocery, which is a C1 neighborhood commercial use. The zoning code will say grocery, but it won't define if it's just a vitamin store, a fruit and vegetable store, or an all-purpose product store, if you will. So it's a broad category, and this particular type of automotive repair type use, they all might sell certain products as well. Because you take your car in to get repaired, you do have to pay for the products that get put into the car as well. So it does fit within that category.
Okay. And a second question on that. So one of the concerns that the neighbors had mentioned is that by putting this in a commercial, a higher level commercial zoning, that it would allow for, they said, a marijuana dispensary. But it sounds like with the zoning being specific auto repair only, is that something that would not be allowed under this zoning?
Right. Through the Mayor, Councilmember Lopez, I would like to clarify for the residents as well. The land has PAD zoning, which is a zoning district, and the uses permitted, as I've mentioned, are neighborhood commercial is the term. C1 uses permitted by right in the zoning code. There are 3 levels of commercial zoning, C1, C2, and C3. This request is not asking for C2 uses and C3 uses in totality to be added. They're asking for one use that would be allowed in C2 to be applied to the neighborhood commercial here, which is strictly only that motor vehicle repair. So the request is not asking for other uses that would be in that table of permitted uses, such as a medical marijuana dispensary or an adult shop. Those are uses that are looked at quite differently. The adult uses are not a by right use in any of our zoning districts in the city. Those certainly would have to come through a public hearing process to be vetted and reviewed and a determination made where that could go. Medical marijuana dispensaries are now reviewed at an administrative level, and there is an ordinance with very specific criteria on how far they need to be from residential and other types of uses in that ordinance as well. So that is not a part of this case, and we're not aware of any request for that to be occurring at this time.
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah. So somewhat related, again, if this was to change from anything, it seems like the steps that are put on this are very specific for a Discount Tire. So, and the way the bays are, the way everything is drawn out, and if there was a sense of a switch, that would have to come back to us, correct, on this? It was originally a larger piece, but not substantial changes. And then it was just this 1.2 acres of the larger piece that's been modified. So if someone wanted to put something other than a Discount Tire in there, would that at all be possible? Again, I'm speaking to you as much as neighbors and others.
Through the Mayor, Councilmember Harkey, I can certainly answer that and explain that a little bit more clearly. I do have another exhibit for the document camera as well. So on this particular plan, it may be a little bit easier to understand. You have the overall land that's remaining vacant today next to the storage. It's an older photo, so the storage isn't shown. That's in red. The yellow square is that 1.27 acres, which is what has been by zoning conditions stipulated as that's where the motor vehicle repair could go only on this lot. Discount Tire is a business, and we don't zone on business type. So whether it was Discount or Bridgestone or Big O Tire or an oil and lube repair shop, whomever it may be, it could allow various motor vehicle repairs to locate in there if for some reason Discount Tire were to vacate it. But it also still allows the uses permitted by right in the zoning code under that neighborhood commercial C1. That land use right doesn't go away. So say a motor vehicle repair never occurred on the property, you could still do your general restaurant, retail, office type uses that would normally have been allowed to occur as it is right now.
Councilmember Wong.
My question is, when the staff asked Discount Tire to limit their hours of operations, and what did they respond?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Wong, it occurred at our Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. So the Planning and Zoning Commission had asked the applicant, would they agree to a restriction on hours? They had specifically asked Discount Tire, what are your hours of operation? And those happened to be the hours that went into the zoning condition. The positive of that was because they don't operate on Sundays, they are closed. So if they were to go out of business and a different motor vehicle repair were to come in on that lot, they would be held to those hours. If they wanted to operate on Sundays, there would be another zoning case, another citizen review process, planning commission and council to ask to have those hours changed to something different. Hope that answers your question.
So they do cooperate, they are willing to comply with our request.
Right, through the mayor, Councilmember Wong, they were cooperative and they were agreeable to those zoning conditions.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you rewind to the part where in 1999, this was requested to be changed from ag, I would imagine, to PAD, and the proposal that was proposed was a daycare, which is nice for a neighborhood, grocery, and what was the other product that was supposed to be on that piece?
A bank.
And the storage unit was always intended to be there as well?
That was a zoning case that ran at the same time consecutively with the retail component.
So council changed the status of that land based on that proposal. Now that's kind of changing a little bit. Is that what I understand?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart, so I will rewind just a little bit. I'll make it brief. So the land had been zoned for neighborhood commercial C1 only type uses for many years. I forgot the date, but that did occur in 1999. It was zoned at the same time the Mesquite Grove Estate subdivision was zoned. It was a part of that larger zoning entitlement. The self-storage facility wanted to develop first. At the time, our zoning code did not consider self-storage in C1 zoning. It would need to be in C3 or in an industrial type zoning. So there was a zoning case process, went through the public review, citizen review, the hearings, and they did get entitlement to be able to go through and rezone that land to build a self-storage facility. So that portion of the land did change. It allows C1 uses, and the added use was self-storage mini warehouse. So that's in place today and developed. The rest of the land remained neighborhood commercial. We don't stipulate who the users were, as I indicated. They just showed their idea at the time. They were marketing it for a grocery, a bank, and a child care center, whomever that business may have been. That plan is still in place. The site plan is still in place. The landscape plan, the building elevation, designs, materials, colors. So if the developer were to come in today and say, I have a different bank use, or I don't want to do a bank, I want to do maybe a retail use, or I choose not to do a daycare, I want to do a different type of C1 use. We would look to see how are they designing the site plan. If the site plan and the building designs are dramatically different, that would require a new preliminary development plan zoning case process, which would get reviewed by the citizens. But at this time and juncture, the applicant is keeping the site plan as it is, except improving the portion of the site where the Discount Tire is, removing the square building where the grocery were to go, and now putting in the automotive use in its place, if that makes sense.
Thank you. One follow-up. Will the tendency for this lot end up being mostly automotive? Do you expect like more product to go in there that fits in that sort of genre? Or could this be a hodgepodge of a number of different things? What are your expectations? What have you seen in the past?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart, you're speaking for the overall 5 acres. The current request, as you know, is just focused on the 1.2 as coming out of commission to put motor vehicle there. If council were inclined to say approve motor vehicle on the entire 5 acres, that could be possible. I'm not an expert, I'm not in the commercial brokerage field, but there aren't a lot of motor vehicle repair-based type uses in that area of the city. So there could be a potential that somebody would want to locate on another lot that is in there. And that could have been part of the reasoning why commission decided, let's just have it on the 1 lot and leave the other 2 lots for neighborhood commercial uses as already zoned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Other questions from the, yes, Councilmember Rowe.
Wanted to confirm a couple of things. Thank you for this good presentation. But Discount Tire, through their architecture or whatever, turned the building to the south, away from the homes. Is that correct?
Yes, through the mayor, Councilmember Rowe, they submitted their application with that building facing the south already. So that was a good thing. That would be something we as staff would have had asked them to do as well. So what we worked with is, how do you screen the view of those bay doors? There's different design techniques we have done on various auto facilities within Chandler. And based on this site, we have wall systems that are along Gilbert Road that vary in height, and landscaping that helps mitigate the view of seeing into the bay doors that they do have. But that's correct. It is facing an opposite direction from the closest single-family subdivision.
Okay, and I think Councilmember Harkey kind of covered that, but the second part, Mayor, is as far as taking deliveries of their retail merchandise, doesn't that come through the south side of the business too? They're not taking 18-wheelers and delivering behind or in front of homes, getting the tires out of the truck. Isn't that to the front of the business?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Rowe, that's a very good question. I don't want to answer that incorrectly because I want to look and double check. So on the site plan that they have, I'll show you here on the projector on the document camera. The building is here, the bay doors are on the south side of the building. On the north side is all landscaping. So they would be pulling up onto the side, or they would be pulling up into the front to do the delivery, as well as the area here off to the side would be the old tire storage, which would have to be picked up. So that's where that would occur on the property.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wong.
I just want to clarify. So right now, the discount tire, the 1.27 acre is it will be rezoned to C3, right? Okay, and the rest of the 5 acre, what is the zoning right now?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Wong, there is no request for rezoning this land
right now,
to C2, C3, or industrial. That is not a part of this application. They are simply keeping the neighborhood commercial C-1 uses in place. That won't change. And they're just adding 1 land use. That 1 land use is motor vehicle repair. Now, to add a little bit of clarification, motor vehicle repair would be allowed automatically if the land had zoning of C2 or a C3. But since the land does not, they just want to add that 1 use. They don't want to add all C2 and all C3 uses. They just want to take that 1 use and add it as a permitted use to the C1 uses that are there.
On that parcel.
On this parcel, and as coming out of Planning Commission with the applicant agreeing, only on this 1.2 acre where the discount tire property would construct. It's not being requested on the rest of the vacant land on that site.
And that's my point. It's limited to that 1.2 acre parcel that we're talking about tonight.
That's correct, Mayor. Yeah.
The reason I was asking was because, to my knowledge, C3 does not allow for childcare or preschool, right?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Wong, I actually don't know that answer off the top of my head. It might, but maybe it doesn't. It could be in C1 or C2.
Yeah, to my knowledge,
certainly
C3
C1 because the site
zone
C1, but for C2 or for C3, I don't know. It may not. Good question, though.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez.
So I move for the approval of.
You know, I want to wait. I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
Because I have some speaker cards. Yes, I'd like to hear from the residents and then possibly the applicant. So we do have some speaker cards here to address the council. We have two, and then I know we have some other people in the audience that may not have filled out a card that want to address us. So that's the best way, though, is to fill out a card, but I'll still take comments. But I do have a speaker card from Mark Silver. Mark, we'll give you 3 minutes, unless you're representing the whole neighborhood, and then, okay.
One diagram up here. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm Mark Silver. I live at 3057 East Lieber Place in Chandler. This one would be great.
I'll leave them both up.
That's great, thank you. First of all, I want to tell you that tomorrow marks 2 years that we bought our home in Mesquite Road. And we are absolutely delighted, and we're drawn to this community by all the hard work that you all have done on building and growing this city. And the Planning and Zoning Commission have done a remarkable job, and we're greatly appreciative of that. What I'd like to address, however, are issues of noise and traffic. And the first point is that when we bought our home, we border on Gilbert, and when we bought our home, our house did not appraise. And the reason for that was the increasing traffic on Gilbert. We benefited from that. We still bought the home and are taking steps to reduce that. The other is that the study that was done on behalf of Discount Tire is very much flawed. It was done, as you know, with no facility on site. They say in the report that they compared it to another Discount Tire facility, but numbers are not reported in that report. And the interesting thing, which leads me really to the third point, and I appreciate Jody leaving this up, is that if you can see here, the sites that they measured were around this property. And interesting, across Riggs Road here, they measured a couple of other sites where the sound levels were actually higher. So sound is a really interesting thing, and many of our members in our community know a lot about it. The third point is really this space over here. You all know that you've recruited a remarkable facility that is senior care, Alzheimer's care. It's going to have 200 and some units, some villas that may house up to 300 people. And I am a retired physician, and I can speak to that with some knowledge. Patients, these people who live there do not always sleep the same hours we do. They have disrupted sleep. They are awake during the day. They have cognitive disorders, and they're very sensitive to sound. And that wasn't taken into consideration at all. I want to make note, Councilmember Harkey, for pulling this out of the planning meeting and bringing this forward. And I also want to make a point that it was really Commissioner Human who listened to us at the last meeting and restricted the proposed revision for zoning to the 1.2 acres. And we're greatly appreciated for that. However, and the last thing I'll say is that Discount Tire, we use them. We think they're a wonderful business. Let me make one final observation. All of us here, the community members, you and Discount Tire members, we all essentially want the same thing. We want a perfect fit. We want to retain the value of our community. And the problem is there are some gaps. As community members, our method about finding out about happenings in our community just don't work in 2018. The 4x6 boards on the property is probably not enough. On our side, we need to find a better way to find our voice. Our HOAs are not effective in bringing that forward, and I see what could emerge from this, some really growth and progress. And from Discount Tire's perspective, great company.
Can I ask you to wrap up?
I will. Great company, great history, great leadership, and we want them to be a perfect fit in a place where the businesses they attract to their co-location are ones that the community want. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Silver.
Mr. Silver? Mr. Silver? Could you please show me on the map where your residence is? That one, if I could.
The residences?
Yeah, you could just show me where you live, please.
So you can see this is the site here. As Jody said, I think the storage unit is not on here, but these are residences here. And at our last meeting, one of our members said that.
But could you show me where your residence is? That's my simple question.
Oh, my residence?
Yes, sir.
I'm right off of Gilbert, and this is, so I'm probably right over here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Barry Blatch. We get your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Barry Vlach. I live at 5930 South Mesquite Grove in Chandler. And before we get there, let's fresh my mind. Right where the blue project site map is there, that's my house, right underneath that blue box. I might go a few seconds over if that's okay. I'm representing also one of my neighbors, Susan Carroll, who lives at 5722 South Mesquite Grove Way. She's at her daughter's graduation on the East Coast right now. Susan is an engineer, she's a neighbor, and she's actually one of the really brightest people I know. She very eloquently presented, there was a study done on acoustics and sound, and she sent me a memo. I said, Susan, can I just read what you sent me because I can't put it in my own words. So we have this study of the sound. This is what she's referring to. The output of the model doesn't make sense to me either, as there isn't a pattern of data, for example, and put ×2 equals output. There is also one more line of results than there was input data. So clearly there were mistakes and errors in the report. The time chosen is not representative because noise is additive and it is much noisier in that area with morning traffic than at 10 in the morning. The study was from 10 to 11 in the morning. I worked on a project with acoustic experts as a research and development engineer at a previous employer, and something like this would have never passed our rubric. Storage facility functioning as an acoustic buffer is also a poor argument. It doesn't look like any acoustic tile I've ever seen. As the best acoustic tiles, for example, in the 0 dB room have a curvature and a low module material. Even if you accepted the argument that the facility is a buffer, that the storage facility is a buffer, there's a lot of gaps and is not a continuous parameter. Hope this helps. My general feeling is that many people have little background in this area and cannot evaluate the merits and numbers, the reports. They look at the bottom line, conclusions, and take that on faith. Okay. We as a group don't have the resources with financials to put a new study out there, hire our own attorneys to fight this thing. Instead, we've got a petition, 125 signatures, the people that are here tonight, telling you we don't want these zoning laws changed. My wife and I moved here 3.5 years ago from Nebraska, and the Storage West facility was already on the books and a done deal, and truly they've been a pretty good neighbor. I don't mind them at all. We had nothing to say with that. They've proved to be a pretty good neighbor. In fact, after that, I talked my son into moving into Chandler, and he lives right across the way in Cooper Commons, and we're thrilled we're so close to him. This time it's different. We didn't move the area so we could have a tire shop and a repair facility in our backyards. And now it seems like everybody's trying to force this upon us. And as I've heard you guys talking before, there still seems to be a lot of confusion about what's zoned for what, where, what can happen, what happens if Discount Tire fails in their endeavor and something else moves in there. There seems a lot of uncertainty what's going to happen there. In this noise study, you guys referenced, the Discount Tire referenced one of their facilities on Chandler Boulevard between Alma School and Dobson. And I drove by there the other day. Very interesting, I thought. There's a big, the bay doors there face to the east, and there's a lot, a big lot, empty lot to the south. And I'm going to say that facility looks like it had to be there quite a while. And interestingly enough, I made an intentional visit there, and I also drove around to the back of that lot, clear on the back side of it, parked my vehicle, stood outside. I could hear air hammers, banging, clanging, a block and a half away. I could hear that coming from that facility. So we had some errands to run, and we were out on the 101 coming back from Scottsdale, and I noticed another discount tire there, which I admit is quite a bit newer. Lots of empty lots around it as well. It appears to me not a lot of people want to be Discount Tire's neighbors, just from what I can see. Our government was built on a voice of the people. And the people here have spoken, both in signatures and our presence. Really want this thing disapproved. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Anybody else wish to address the council? Yes, sir. I'm going to keep it at 3 minutes. We get your name and address for the record.
My name is William Haskell. My wife is Diane Haskell. We live at 5770 South Dragoon Drive. And if you look at the map, I can show you specifically where our house is.
It's right there on.
And we're located right there. What I'm concerned about is the noise factor, as Mark indicated. And what this shows, this map shows you, it just shows you a pad across the street. Well, as Mark indicated, it's going to become a senior center, if you will, for senior citizens, so they're not going to be happy about the noise. What I'm concerned about is during construction, I understand there's noise. But now that Storage West is in there, it's absolutely quiet. There is no noise, nothing. It's a very pleasant place to live. However, if we let Discount Tire move in, it's going to be constant noise all day long. As Barry said, with air hammers, noises going on, traffic. What's really interesting is why here? If you look at the map and the broader map, it's all residential. Across the street, across Riggs Road, we have Walgreens. Does that make noise? I ask you. Across the street from Riggs and Gilbert is a small shopping center. Does that make noise? No. All of a sudden, we're going to introduce a noise factor in our neighborhood. And I questioned the reason for this Discount Tire to be located here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There was a gentleman back there that wanted to address the council. Yes, sir. Just give us your name and address on the mic, and then give that to the clerk when you leave the podium.
My name is Jim Engelmann, also known as Burl F. Engelmann Jr. My wife and I and our 2 Aussie boys live at 5571 South, 4 Peaks Place. If you come off of Gilbert Road onto Leo, where the good doctor mentioned, you go about 120 feet or so, and there's a park. On the other side of the park is a cul-de-sac, 4 Peaks Place. And we have been there for 4 years and a couple of months. And we moved in, bought the house, because we were looking for peace and quiet. And even without the facility that is being proposed, I can tell you that there's only one room in our house now that makes a satisfactory bedroom, because the rooms that face west toward Gilbert Road are so noisy, starting at about 4:30 in the morning or 5, the traffic starts to build up, and it's not pleasant. And to add anything on that corner that would increase noise as well as increase traffic and degradation of access to the building and living facilities that we paid handsomely for, I think would be unfair and punitive. And so regrettably, although I do not like to speak against business, I was in business myself as an employee for many years, but the people who are in there moved in with certain expectations that they were willing to pay for and did. And now someone is coming in, not out of malice, but coming in to do business and making these changes, like it or not, over a period of time will degrade the living conditions even further and perhaps even more quickly. So regrettably, I ask that you not make this change, and let's try to keep things on an even par. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, if we could get your speaker card.
I wasn't really going to say anything, and I'm Jim's wife.
So
I agree with everything he said. There's one thing that, I'm sorry.
Just give us your name and address for the
Oh,
record.
Mary Engelmann, 5571 South Four Peaks Place.
Thank you.
One of the things that bothers me about where we're living is that if we want to go to a really nice restaurant, it's off to Scottsdale. You know, we need the upper scale things in Chandler. This is a wonderful place, and it's beautiful. And we love people. I have two daughters in California. They come over, you know, it's very lovely. But we have to leave the area if we want to go to a really upscale, nice restaurant. And when we get a discount tire right near us, there's going to be no way that anybody is going to put in a nice restaurant there, because you just don't find nice French restaurants or Italian restaurants or whatever next to a discount tire. It kind of lowers everything. The second thing I was thinking of, well, three things. Chandler Road, I don't know if you ever try to make a left turn out of Chandler Road from Leo, which we do, but...
Which road are you saying again?
Gilbert Road.
Thank you.
From Leo. It's only 2 lanes each way, traffic, and it's hard to make the left turn. So that's another thing. It's not going to really address, I mean, unless, and you don't want to make that wider. And the other thing is, we're all talking about, you know, our house values maybe going down, which probably would happen if we have a discount tire in our neighborhood. But then you guys or Chandler is going to lose out, because as property values drop, guess what happens? You guys don't get as much money. And we want you to have all the money that you need to make Chandler continue to be the nice area that it is now. And so I really would beg you to think twice about putting that in and letting it be for, you know, maybe a nice French restaurant, a nice, you know, whatever. The daycare is wonderful. Little shops like that. You know, somebody that's making jewelry. A little entrepreneur that wants to go and do it, but they don't want to be next to a discount tire. And thank you very much for listening and being interested in this.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, neighbors. The applicant, I'm going to have the applicant come up now. Really, you need to address your comments to the concerns from the neighborhoods, because I think we all know the rest of the case, you know, what it's being changed to or proposed to be changed to. But I think the noise issue has been a constant message we've gotten from the neighbors. I'd like you to address that. Would also like to address the facility across the street who had a chance to weigh in on this zoning case one way or the other. And I haven't heard from them, so I don't know. I don't think they're opposed, but I'd be interested to hear that. And then from there, you can make your presentation.
Quick clarification, Mayor, when you're talking about the other facility across the street, you're talking about the senior center across the street?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I can address
It's a
that.
pretty big parcel and what have you. And it came up from one of the neighbors.
Yes, I can address that. Cassandra Ayers, Buse Gilbert, on behalf of the applicant. Our address is 701 North 44th Street in Phoenix. With me today, I have Dennis Newcomb, who's a planner in our office, Don Threlkill, who is a representative of Discount Tire. Wave your hands, guys. Sterling Margetts with Kim Lee Horn, and Tony Sola, who was and is our acoustical engineer. Mr. Sola is available to answer any specific questions you have about the sound study that he conducted. I am not a sound engineer, so I can answer some general questions, but if you have anything specific about the study that he conducted, he is available to answer the questions. So before I start, I'd like to have Mr. Threlkill come up and talk a little bit about Discount Tire, what they do for the community, and why they picked this site. So.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you. I hope all of you know about Discount Tire. From what I heard, it sounds like a lot of you have. You know, we're an Arizona-based company out of Scottsdale. We've been around since 1960. We started with one store. Our founder passed earlier this year, but since his start at 1960, we will open our 1,000th store midsummer this year. So. We're still independently owned. We will always be independently owned. That's the way the family has set it up. Just a couple of things. I know there's been a lot of conversation about automotive. I think Councilmember Lopez brought it up that we do not do any automotive. We are a retailer of tires and wheels. We do install them on the vehicle, but we do not do any automotive service whatsoever. So if you need a tire or a wheel, or you need to get a tire repaired or your tires rotated, we can handle any of that for you. If you need brakes, alignments, oil changes, or anything else that's considered automotive repair, we cannot handle that. We don't do that. And we're going to stay true to our retail of tires and wheels. So site selection, as it was brought up earlier, this retail neighborhood area is what we do best at. We find that over 80% of our customers want to buy where they live and not necessarily where they work. And so you'll find that most, if not all of our stores are situated in retail type areas that are servicing the surrounding neighborhoods. Our existing store in Chandler, we have one store currently in Chandler, has exceeded its business expectations, and we certainly would like to be able to serve the community in this area with another store. One unique thing that we bring to the table as a retailer is anybody that owns a car, we classify them as a customer. And we give free flat repairs and free rotations for everybody that drives a car. So I know everybody wants a Starbucks or a restaurant, but I don't get free coffee in Starbucks, and very seldom do I ever get any free meals in a restaurant. So 50% of the customers that go into our stores on a daily basis leave without getting charged anything for their free services that we do. So you buy a new vehicle, drive it off the lot. If you need to get a tire repaired or your tires rotated, you can bring it into one of our stores, and we'll do that. We will ask you to consider us when you do need tires, but that's kind of a service that we bring to the communities that we're in. So the couple of points brought up on our deliveries, you are correct. Our deliveries are on the south side, the side that faces the service bays, and then also the removal of our old tires that are taken from the store on a day or every other day basis is also removed from the south side. So all of the operational portion of the business is on the south side. So thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about the company.
Council, question of the gentleman. Councilmember Hartke.
And I don't know if someone else is better qualified to answer this, but again, the three complaints that I've heard from neighbors are, and I think we've addressed the zoning one and no one brought that up. So we're done with that one, I think. But it seemed like noise, traffic, and property values. So tell me the history of, you said there's 1,000 Discount Tires in Arizona, well done. Mm-hmm. What impact has that had in communities on property values?
So, and 1,000 stores nationwide. So we're in 38 different states. We find that the same neighborhood services that go in typically in these centers benefit. We have their car. Typically our customers wait about 45 minutes to have service, either put tires on or have a rotation or a flat repair done. So the restaurants, any of the services, people don't hang around in our showroom. It's fairly small, and they will use all the services that are nearby. Restaurants love us. I myself spent over 18 years changing tires, and we had a pizza store next door, and every couple of weeks they'd bring a pizza or two over just because they were like, thank you for all the business you bring us. With, you know, somebody had to wait to get their car, they went over and got a pizza or something to drink. So I think we're a great neighbor. In fact, most of the people come in thinking they're going to have to spend money, so they've got extra money that they plan to spend for that tire repair or tire rotation that they can spend at the neighboring businesses. The noise study, I can't address the numbers. Tony would be the expert at that. But I can tell you that the gun that we use in our stores, especially built for us, we've done everything we can to mitigate the noise. And we are in 38 states, and that particular gun can meet any noise ordinance so far that any state that we've run into or any community that we've run into. So that is something that we try to make sure that's not only safe for our employees, but the noise leaving our building. All the work is completed inside the building. There is a garage door that's open, but all the work is inside that door and inside the enclosed building. So that answers your questions. Tony can add more color to it if you need it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you heard Mr. Threlkill say that Discount Tire is a great use for this site. The site has sat vacant since 1999 when it was zoned back PAD with the C1 uses. Discount Tire coming on this property will activate this site and act as a draw for additional commercial development. You heard Mr. Threlkill say extra money, they can go to visit the restaurants, maybe someone will come in and build a restaurant. The uses that were there in the original zoning case remain. Restaurants, retail centers, all of those uses remain and may come as a result of Discount Tire. We have worked very, very closely with the staff to ensure that the neighbors are protected as much as possible. Jody, I don't know, the camera. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jody.
Good job, Jody.
We put as Jody said, we came in with a plan that put the bay doors to the south, deliberately facing away from the neighbors. There is no delivery towards the back of the facility. Delivery and pickup are either in the front or to the side. You have the additional buffer between the walls of the Discount Tire and landscaping, as well as the multiple layers of buildings of the mini storage facility. We are keeping the landscaping consistent with the PAD that was approved back in 1999. And I know my associate Dennis can maybe give you some more specifics, but there's a significant amount of landscaping that is going in on this site. We also have designed the site to encourage connectivity between not only the mini storage, but any other commercial elements that are also developed on this site. So you can see that there are multitudes of ways to get around here as it's ultimately developed. We've taken really great care to make sure that there's an integrated element to this property. You can see that the Discount Tire is tucked in. We could have put it on the corner or somewhere else on the site, but it's tucked into the corner, wrapped by the mini storage, which again provides that buffer for the sound for the neighbors to protect them. We agreed with the stipulation on the hours, happened to be the hours that we normally keep, but we agreed to keep that as a stipulation. So as Jody alluded to earlier, anyone who comes in later that wants to operate at different hours on that side is going to have to come in for another case and come in front of this body. So we've heard from a number of the residents, and we do recognize their concerns, and we recognize that they have submitted a petition. I'd like to briefly just go through some of those elements that were in the cover letter that was submitted, the petition, because we don't think that they're factually accurate. So as Jody alluded to earlier, we are not asking for C2 or C3 zoning. It's just the PAD with C1 uses and only adding that automotive use. And Jody told you about, it's a broad category. There's no specific zoning category for discount tire. That only does tire changes. It's a broad category and we have to fit inside one of those. The sound study, if you have specific questions about the underlying data of the sound study, I'd like to bring Mr. Sola up here to talk about that, but he did do it. One of the complaints we saw in the petition was that it was not conducted on the site. We can't conduct a sound study for a discount tire at a location that's not constructed yet. So Mr. Sola went to another discount tire and conducted his sound study and found that the potential maximum noise impact to the residential property lines is well below typical daytime municipal noise level limits. In fact, it is below every municipal daytime noise level limit I am aware of. Additionally, these projected maximum levels are within the typical ambient noise levels of these areas. There's also, I don't think anyone's talked about it specifically, but there's also 170 feet between the discount tire and the nearest residential area. That's a significant space, as well as the buildings that are in between there. With regard to, Mayor, you asked specifically about the senior center that's over here. We reached out to them twice, I believe. Was it twice? At least twice, and most recently after the Planning Commission, they did not have any issues with what we were proposing to do on this site. They had no pros and no cons. They had no issues with what we were proposing. In addition, with regard to the type of patients that will be in the senior center, again, we've restricted our hours. We're not open on Sundays. And I'd like to point out that the use that was there before, which was the Fresh and Easy grocery store, actually would be open 7 days a week and potentially have deliveries at all hours of the day and night, which would be an even greater impact on the neighbors and on the senior center that's now going in there, instead of our restricted hours and the inability of, I mean, you can see, you can't get a truck back here, the deliveries. So I think I've addressed all of your questions. If you have anything specific, I'm happy to bring up Mr. Sola, or try and answer them as best I can.
Council, questions of applicant?
Yeah, I think to just maybe have Mr. Sola come up and just give his summary of his findings so that we can hear from the engineer that everyone keeps on referring to.
Good evening, Tony Sola, 708 North Alma School, Mesa. In addition to being an acoustical engineer, I've taught some form of acoustics or architectural acoustics at ASU for over 20 years. I've worked on over 4,000 projects. I work for neighborhood groups as often or more often than for developers, and I work fairly often for individual municipalities. My opinion must stay consistent. I can't say tonight for this project that this noise issue shouldn't be a concern, and tomorrow work for a neighborhood group and say that it is a concern. So my opinion is consistent, project to project. I did this analysis very conservatively, making sure that my projections would be actually louder than it would really be. I did measure the maximum noise level and use that split-second maximum as the amount that they could be impacted to at any given time. Projected the noise. One of the biggest advantages of this project, and I don't know if this is still up. Thank you. Is the orientation of the building. The bay doors are only open in this direction. If you stand behind a typical discount tire store, you will hear virtually nothing even 10 feet behind it, let alone 170 feet, let alone 170 feet plus having a building blocking it. The storage facility does help to block that noise, although it's not absorptive. It's about the best barrier you could have. Typical commercial projects that I work on, we're looking at trying to build a 6 to 8 foot high barrier wall. These are 10, 11, 12 higher feet buildings. They aren't a 6-inch wide barrier wall. These buildings will block the noise to the neighbors behind, to 90 degrees, to 45 degrees very well. With my conservative estimate, the potential maximum noise level is in compliance with every single residential noise level limit that I am aware of in the country. Questions?
Councilmember Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. There was a mention of ambient noise.
Yes.
Could you explain that?
Some municipalities compare the noise to the existing ambient, and the city of Phoenix does not allow you to exceed the existing ambient. So although not necessary to determine if it's in compliance with the typical ordinance, and since you don't have a quantifiable noise level limit, it's not necessary, but it's still good information. So we want to compare it to the ambient. There's a question as to why it was tested from 10 to 11. To be conservative, the ambient, to help protect the neighbors, I should measure it at a quieter time, not a louder time, because I'm comparing their projected noise to what the typical ambient is. So if I were to measure that noise during rush hour, the ambient would have been higher, the difference would have been greater, I would have been criticized for that. So whenever I take an ambient, I want to take the ambient at a typical quiet time. So 10:30 in the morning is a typical quiet daytime hour for traffic.
A baseline.
Correct. Well, not even a baseline as much as a comparison. What is this projected noise? Is it below the typical ambient, or does it exceed the typical ambient? And this is below the typical ambient. The typical quiet ambient, not the rush hour ambient.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Ellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you expound on how you do the studies, or is there equipment, or how, and then I have a two-part question.
You bet.
That's part number one. Part number two, can you give an example of other businesses or other projects you did studies on and just compare, please? Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Still recovering, so my brain isn't quite there yet. Remind me your first part. Oh, how do I even do this study? I take a sound level meter, and I want to establish the maximum baseline noise that could occur at that facility. So I went to the existing discount tire, measured the different equipment from 3 feet away, measured all of the equipment operating at the same time at 25 feet away and 75 feet away. Combined all of that, picked the maximum worst case condition, and then projected that with industry standard propagation formulas to the different distances. And then, as I said, I included some barrier effect, but only one barrier effect. For example, from this point to these homes, you have these buildings, this building, this building. I only used one building to calculate the barrier. I did not go further, didn't need to go further, to calculate how much quieter it would be with those 3 buildings blocking the noise. So that's how I do the study. And now remind me what your second part was. Oh, again, I've worked on 4,000 projects. It's anything from racetracks to what's been common recently, and what has been an issue recently is car washes. The car wash blowers are very loud, and depending upon how they are oriented, can be a real issue for neighbors. So it's one of my pet peeves. It's one of the things I work on often, not because it's my pet peeve, but because it's an issue in a number of communities.
Okay, so I guess we're glad there's not a car wash going on there. Thank you.
It could be controlled, but yes, this would be substantially better than a car wash.
Thank you.
I have one brief question.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. You know what? I will wait till you're done. I apologize because this is a question for the city manager.
Okay.
Forgive me.
Thank you, sir.
I might be done. Thanks.
Councilmember Stewart.
Marcia, are you aware of any noise complaints? And I know this is really out of left field. Are you aware of any noise complaints for tire, automotive? Has that become an issue in your experience anywhere in Chandler on a frequent basis, where we've got a lot of neighbors calling in and saying, hey, listen, this tire shop or this automotive center is just ridiculous. Can you have somebody go out and tell them to be quiet?
And through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart, I personally am not aware of any noise complaints. However, if you would like for us to research that, we would ask the police department to see if they're the ones that actually get the call on the noise, to see if we have any noise complaints, and we could bring that information back to council.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart, if I may, I think Mr. Thrailkill might be able to answer that on a, not necessarily specific to Chandler, but overall.
So in all of our locations, again, almost 1,000 locations, you know, I've experienced maybe 2 or 3 noise complaints throughout the almost 60-year life of our retail stores. So again, we're a good neighbor. You know, we're typically in other retail centers, and as most people find, the road noise is way beyond what our noise is coming out of our facilities.
Thank you.
Have any other questions for me?
Council, any other questions? Thank you. Councilmember.
Can I just like to make a comment?
Yes, Councilmember Long.
Sorry that the situation, we have so many residents don't like the project. The council will need to vote today. It could be a yes, could be a no. If the project approved, I would like to make a request that if they came in, if Discount Tire came in, I think they are good business. Let's try to find a way to get along with each other. Chandler is a good place. Don't need to be unhappy. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lopez.
So I'll preface this with thank you to all the neighbors coming in and voicing your concerns. And we've gone through a budget process very recently, and we don't get very much interaction with the public. Unfortunately, it is with items like this that it tends to be something that is a little contentious. But we do appreciate you coming out. We do listen, and we understand your concerns. The ones you mentioned about noise, I think a lot of them have been addressed. The direction, and they've Discount Tire and the businesses have been willing to bend and willing to work with us and to ensure that the noise has the least amount of impact to you all. Regarding other businesses coming in, we are a growing city, and many of you say you've been here 4 or 5 years. I don't know how old that neighborhood is, but we do have a lot of residents that have moved here hoping that those empty lots would stay that way. But we are a growing city, and it is just the nature of these open spots that retail infill is going to come in, which does raise values. We get pulled in 2 directions sometimes when values are going up, but then we also get told they're going up too fast because it's hard for people to buy homes in Chandler. So it's a happy balance that, you know, as values do go up, you know, it's just the nature of sometimes businesses coming in also to making it a better neighborhood. So with that said, again, I do want to thank you, and this is not just, you know, placating you. This is a heartfelt thank you for coming out and voicing your opinions. So I do want to move for approval of the introduction of the ordinance number 4824, DVR 170024, Mesquite Grove Marketplace, Discount Tire, rezoning from Planned Area Development, PAD, for neighborhood commercial to PAD, neighborhood commercial and motor vehicle repairs, and preliminary development plan, PDP, for site layout and building design for motor vehicle repair business located at the northeast corner of Gilbert and Riggs Roads.
Mayor, I'd like to second the motion and have a comment.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, a second by Councilmember Rowe. Further discussion from the council on the motion?
Mayor?
Yes.
I want to thank the residents for coming in and expressing your concerns. And as Councilmember Lopez says, we do listen, and we have been listening even before tonight. appreciate your heart. And living in Chandler, I can tell you as a real estate professional, when people think something will devalue their homes, this is not what an appraiser devalues a home or even discourages buyers. It's big power lines or some other things like that. So I just want to, if that helps give you peace of mind about your values, really, this doesn't, because you already have the buffer of the storage units there. This isn't going to be right by your property, and even then, I just want to assure you, I have 10 years in the business, and just want to set your heart at ease about that. So thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Want to say something?
Further discussion from the council?
Yeah, Mayor, just sometimes we have difficult votes to make, and I seconded this motion because there was a lot of information, and you all had presented your arguments against this project, but oftentimes we have to weigh progress in the community. We have to look at people, their rights, as far as the landowners have owned this land for many years and have tried to do something there. And now, anecdotally speaking, I know, but I've been a customer of Discount Tire for so many years, and know how they do business and what a good neighbor they are. And I will tell you, sometimes we make very tough votes, and I'm sad to say this is not that difficult, because I know that they are a good neighbor and this is a good project. My apologies.
Councilmember Wong.
Just also like to address to the resident, when you come in here and write down the letter, it carry a lot of weight on us. And we did, I believe everyone here did listen. And I will vote later, and you will see what I'm going to vote. But I really think Discount is a good, Discount Tire is a business, and I think the noise level probably not as much as you think. And also, just like Vice Mayor said, it probably won't devalue. I think it won't devalue your property. It probably will have positive impact on the neighborhood, because it's so convenient and everybody drives a vehicle. And their business are very simple. They just change a tire. And they also provide many free service. And so you can take advantage of it. So, and if Discount Tire did make the noise to the level like you cannot bear, you can always complain to the city, and I believe we will take some measurement. So so just want you to know, your complaint, your letter do carry a lot of weight on us. Thank you.
Mayor, I have one brief comment, if you don't mind. Thank you. Mr. Haskell, thank you for being here, and thank you for all the neighbors for being here and addressing council. That's what a republic is all about. And I appreciate what you said about people addressing their government and being here in person. And I also respect the fact that in the United States we have property rights, and we should not be forced to do things with our property that we don't want to, nor should we be limited to be able to do things with our property that we wish to do. However, in this case, Discount Tire is positioned in many neighborhoods all over the East Valley. And I'm going to get the report to find out whether or not we have noise complaints from this. I will take the gentleman's word for it that in his however many years with the company, there's been 2. I can guarantee you that I'll meet with each one of you afterwards, and you can have my business card, and if there are noise issues with this particular project, you can come to me directly and I'll take it straight to the top. But in this case, we have to respect property rights. And this is what this group would like to do with their property. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Council, do you have a motion? Please vote the motion.
Motion carries unanimously with Mayor Tripp Cheney dissenting.
Motion did not carry unanimously.
I'm sorry, motion carried by majority.
Okay. Okay, Council, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. We have a special meeting immediately after this. Meeting adjourned. Good evening. Welcome to the Chandler City Council special meeting of Thursday, May 10th, 2018. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Tripp Cheney?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ellen? Here. Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Yeah.
Councilmember Hartke?
Here.
Councilmember Stewart?
Huh?
Could you say thank you?
Okay, could clerk please call the roll again?
Mayor Tripp Cheney?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ellen?
Here.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Here.
Councilmember Hartke? Here. Councilmember Stewart?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Council, we do have one item. It's the proposed 2018-2019 tentative budget amendments. We have both the use of the one-time council contingency as well as the use of the ongoing council contingency. You've all submitted, or most all of you have submitted budget amendments. They all fall within the financial constraints that we have. So I think this can all be done with one motion. If you want to go through each amendment, that's fine too, but I think you all got the packet. It looks everything like a lot of good amendments, and we can do it all in one motion, whatever your pleasure is.
Mayor.
Councilmember Hartke.
I would like to thank the council for putting together. There's a lot of great ideas here, a lot of merit, but I would like to make a motion that we approve the amendments as listed under the one-time council contingency and the amendments listed under the ongoing council contingency as presented.
I second.
Motion by Councilmember Hartke, a second by Vice Mayor Ellen. Further discussion from the council? Council, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, council, we do have announcements this evening. Just a couple things from me, council. Okay, You Look Marvelous. The annual You Look Marvelous dinner and fashion show is this Saturday night at Chandler Center for the Arts. This annual event, presented by the Chandler and Mesa Therapeutic and Adaptive Recreation Program, begins at 4:30 p.m. with dinner at 5, and the fashion show will begin at 7. Tickets to this popular event are still available. You can find details at chandleraz.gov/therapeutic. It's on your screen. Would like to just say a few words about the city YouTube channel. If you're looking for a fun and informative way to learn more about Chandler, and we all are, check out the city's YouTube channel. Recent posts include looks at water safety and the city's traffic management center. You can find us at youtube.com/City of Chandler. And that's all I have tonight, Council. Councilmember Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Not too much tonight, just to want to again recognize that National Police Week is upon us, and shout out to our public safety folks and all of our military that serve our country so well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Lopez.
Only a happy birthday to the city of Chandler for next week. I think we turn May 17th, city of Chandler turns 106 years old. Just saw something pop up on my Facebook. I've been friends with Chandler for 106 years, I think it is. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to be able to say happy birthday to our chief, and he's not here. So I will text him and tell him I said publicly happy birthday. His birthday was on Monday, but since we don't get to give announcements.
He was 106.
He's not 106. I know how old he's turning, but I won't say that, so he'll still stay my friend. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Wong.
I have no announcement this week. Thank you.
Councilmember Hartke.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a shout out. Yesterday, I had a chance to go with some of our first responders, fire, and police to a prayer breakfast at Grand Canyon University, and it was awesome. And on the way home, Councilmember Rowe and I stopped by a project that, what was the name of that? Drew Blancos all of a sudden. Anyway, a citizen volunteer group.
It's a project.
That went ahead and just had about 100 volunteers working in one of our parks. And, on a hot afternoon or morning, it was a good event. And I'm just very excited for groups like that. And just announcements in downtown coming up. We have 2 ribbon cuttings with 2 new restaurants opening. Tomorrow will be the courthouse, which is directly east of here on Washington at 4:30, a ribbon cutting with the chamber, as well as next Wednesday at Las Palmas Cantina, which is where the old Vintage 95 is. So it's exciting to see great restaurants kind of popping up all over Chandler, and these will be 2 good additions to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. If you remember the name of that project, let us know.
It's gonna shop out at me.
It'll happen. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. So I sit on the East Valley Partnership Board at the pleasure of the Mayor and Council, and this past Wednesday I attended an event at the Mesa Arts Center, and our own general manager of the Chandler Performing Arts Center, Michelle McLennan, was in attendance and gave a presentation about the impact of the arts to our business community. It was very insightful. Matter of fact, so much so that the local arts industry within Phoenix supports 12,000 jobs and more than 400 million into the economy. But the real catch was the fact that we have a good arts program in Phoenix, and especially in Chandler, is one of the major draws, is one of the top line draws for economic development managers for cities and for Chamber of Commerce leadership and things like that. I would never expected that. I thought it'd be low taxes and things like that. But arts is one of the first things that they want to check off when they decide where they want to go or move their business. So Chandler makes that list, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hartke.
I'm done. I stood up.
City Manager.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
With that, meeting is adjourned.